So how can we explain our result, our work, and our data in a way executives can understand us? This video is inspired by a question that a client of mine asked me last week, and they asked me something similar to, like, their boss is not a STEM professional, so they somehow find it hard to explain the work to their boss. And they asked me, like, how can I figure this out? And I thought this is an excellent question and more people should know about that. And there are some common mistakes we are all making. So let's see how we can prevent them and solve them if they already happened. So what I see from the work of with my clients that usually happens, people are, as STEM professionals, very focused on the technical part. So of course our job is mostly technical, so it makes sense that we are really focused on that part. However, what happens that when we explain our work to people who are outside our field, we are still very technical. Even when we think we are not, we are still quite technical. We tend to use a lot of jargon, and no one is really to blame. We are simply used to this kind of words, to this kind of technical jargon and technical setting. So we really find it hard to explain them what's going on in a way they are able to understand. So how can we solve that? Imagine that you are a highly skilled STEM professional, like an engineer, developer, data scientist, and you're talking and you're explaining your work to a person who doesn't know anything about your field, your domain, and your specific field of knowledge. So how do we approach these situations? The stakes are extremely high because that person is someone your job depends on. So you really want to make sure that they understand not only your work, but also the extent of impact of your work, like how it impacts them and why it is important. So the first thing that you want to do here is to really drop the jargon. And when I say drop the jargon, I don't mean this first thing of not explaining the details of the algorithm or not explaining really every single detail of the method. I really mean drop everything jargonic. Why is it so? Because people they already have this preconception that STEM work is complicated and complex, and oftentimes it's really the case. So we don't want to stress them more. We want them to feel relaxed so they can perceive our words. Because oftentimes when you are already thinking, you have this preconception that you're not going to understand something, you are probably not going to understand it. So we want to break that from the very beginning. We want to explain ourselves in the simplest possible way. Now, this is usually easier said than done. So here are some things that I feel and some methods that I feel might help you with that. So when you're preparing a slide, for example, check for all these jargonic expressions that you feel are super common and super easy to understand for you, but might be difficult for the other person. Examples of that are protocols, algorithm, optimization, variables. So all of those words they have this high charge of complexity, and this is something that we really don't want when we are talking to a person who is not in our specific field of expertise. This is one thing. The other thing is understand where they are coming from. For example, if you're talking to executives who have to invest some money, they for sure don't care about the exact methodology. They probably care about the results they're getting and how they're going to get their money back. So if you are in this situation, focus exactly on what is it that they want to hear. If they're interested about the results, don't talk too much about the methodology. Talk about the results and how it impacts them. And this is very important because basically it underlines the part and the importance of understanding our audience and who is it that we are talking to. This is super important because it's really going to mark the how much jargon you can use and what are the words and keywords that you are going to express during your talk or presentation. Now, as I said, previously, this is much easier said than done. And the clear proof of that is how poorly we understand each other in the STEM field. Think about your professors, like that brilliant professor who is the best expert in the world in that specific field, and yet they struggle when they have to share their knowledge and explain their expertise. Another example of that and how complicated this really is are conferences, like the typical conference talk that no one listens to because although the speaker is the expert in the field, no one understands what they are actually talking about. So this is something that takes practice. It takes first awareness and then practice and feedback and practice and feedback and so on. So if you are a developer, scientist, data scientist, engineer, and you feel that you really struggle with that, for example, you have this presentation that you should prepare for some meeting or executive meeting, and you really don't feel like doing it, and you always kind of hate this feeling of anticipation, like how am I going to explain it? What am I even going to say there? How to put it all together? Or you simply wish if only there was someone who could tell me exactly what to put where, so I can be done with that. If you are that person, I would like to invite you to join my coaching program in which I coach STEM professionals on how to do exactly that, how to structure and explain their work in a way that is not only understandable to everyone, but also showcases their expertise and their impact on a specific project or field. So, having said that, I will leave a link down below in the description where you can schedule a completely free discovery call with me where we can chat about your current challenges and struggles in terms of your career when it comes to communication and explaining your work and showing the impact of your work to others. So, I hope you found this video useful and see you in another video. Bye bye.